Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise today to follow up on a question I raised in the House on November 1st in response to the government's announcement that excludes 97% from the 3-year suspension of the carbon tax. Constituents from my riding of Yorkton Melville are appalled by this blatant division of Canadians into two classes, and rightfully so. The province of Saskatchewan is a leading force in the advancement of clean energy and technology. This NDP-Liberal government seems to forget this time and time again. So let me take a moment to clearly outline how Saskatchewan is leading on this file and why we do not need a carbon tax to change our behaviours. We are and have been proactive and progressive on continuing to steward our environment. We love it. We depend on it. Nearly 10 years ago, the Boundary Dam Power Station became the first power station in the world to successfully use carbon capture and storage technology. To match the 4.6 million tons of CO2 captured by this unit, you'd need to plant more than 69 million trees and let them grow for 10 years to get the same result. More recently, in 2022, Saskatchewan farmers exceeded all provinces in sequestering 12.8 million tons of carbon, which is the equivalent of taking 2.78 million cars off the road for a year. We can also consider that Saskatchewan's nuclear energy potential could fill 170% of Canada's total annual electric demands. And as if this isn't enough, this same province is the world's leading supplier of uranium, with 90% of uranium being exported. It's estimated that 1 in 20 homes in the U.S. are powered by Saskatchewan uranium. And let's not forget the fact that Saskatchewan is the world's largest and greenest potash producer. Potash mines in the province produce only half the emissions per ton of potash as competing jurisdictions and still manages to achieve 30% of global production. These are only a few examples of Saskatchewan's sustainable initiatives, and there are many, many more. And beyond what has already been accomplished, experts estimate that 131,000 clean energy jobs will be added between 2025 and 2050 in Saskatchewan as the province continues to move towards a net zero economy. Given all this, one would expect to see strong support for my province from this Liberal government. Sadly, this has not been and won't be the case. All we've seen from this NDP-Liberal government, and now a new carbon tax coalition with the separatist bloc, are inflationary taxes that are hurting our families. The Minister of Rural Economic Development has confirmed what we knew all along. The carbon tax was never about climate change. It's always been about politics. Canadians have been told that the reducing emissions won't exempt them from the tax, but voting Liberal will. Instead of helping struggling families, the Prime Minister is dividing Canadians into two classes, those who get relief from his punitive taxes and those who don't. This Prime Minister is only concerned about his party's plummeting poll numbers and not about doing what is right for all Canadians. The people of my province and riding are resilient people. Cold winters with temperatures dropping down to minus 40 degrees don't stop us. Driving a long distance in the freezing cold weather is something we have to do because we are rural communities. 90% of Saskatchewan households are heated with natural gas. Because they don't vote Liberal, they are given no relief from this punitive tax that is making life unaffordable. And the 10% increased rural payment, well, a whole total of $11.33 won't even buy you a Big Mac meal. Canadians can now see more than ever that this Prime Minister is not worth the cost. Even he knows this, but he's only willing to relieve the burden off the backs of 3% of Canadians.
Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Thank you very much, Speaker. Our government understands that many Canadian families are struggling to make ends meet. That's why we've been putting forward measures since 2015 to support the Canadians who need it the most. For example, we've increased the old age security benefit for people 75 and over. We strengthened the Canada Worker benefit to better support millions of low and modest income workers. And we increased benefits for low-income seniors by enhancing the Guaranteed Income Supplement. Similarly, it was to support lower-income Canadians that our government made the decision to temporarily pause the application of the federal fuel charge on deliveries of heating oil. We did this not simply because it's a source of home heating, but because heating oil is the most expensive form of home heating. And because heating oil is expensive, it means lower-income Canadians face particular hardship incurring these costs. Low-income and rural residents are trapped in a vicious cycle. They are stuck having to pay for the most expensive form of home heating, the cost of which is preventing them from investing in cleaner, more affordable forms of home heating. But, Speaker, I would like to make something absolutely clear. Heating oil is the only exception. There will be no other carve-outs from the federal price on pollution for other forms of home heating, period. Our focus is to help Canadians move away from heating oil to heat their homes. That's why we're turning to heat pumps, which are by far one of the best ways for homeowners to move away from heating oil. Compared to other electric heating sources, heat pumps are 2 to 3 times more efficient. To strengthen the program, the federal government is working with the provinces and territories to increase the amount of federal assistance eligible homeowners can receive for the installation of a heat pump from $10,000 to $15,000. This will add up to an additional $5,000 in grants to complement the provincial and territorial contributions through co-delivery arrangements. This would make the average heat pump and installation free for low to medium income households as we continue to minimize upfront costs and make federal programs even easier to access for all households. And to help Canadians make the switch, an initial payment of $250 will be offered to low and middle income households that currently heat their homes with oil, if they register and they have a heat pump installed under a federal provincial program. The reality is that Canada is deeply impacted by the impacts of climate change, and inaction like that proposed by the opposition is simply not possible anymore. We have to do something to fight climate change, or Canadians will face disastrous consequences. And let's not forget that climate change threatens not only the health and safety of Canadians, but also their financial security and their economic well-being. Fortunately, there's an effective way to fight climate change, and that's what we're doing with our pollution pricing system. This system encourages innovation, it reduces emission, and it promotes greener behavior. And what's more, it gives Canadian households and businesses the flexibility to decide when and how they want to make these changes. Our pricing system is here to stay.
The honourable member for Yorkton Melville.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let's be really clear. Any of the Band-Aid benefits that this government has brought forward, any changes they've made on behalf of seniors, have been negated by their increased taxes, their inflation, and their interest rates. They have spent all the money, they have borrowed all the money, they have printed all the money that they can. And that's why our country's in the condition it's in. These Liberals don't get it, and their gimmicks aren't helping Canadians. The Prime Minister has admitted he's doubling down on the quadrupling of the carbon tax for everyone but the 3% that he found himself needing to respond to because of the polls and the fact that he was so unpopular because of that carbon tax. Canadians cannot afford this Liberal government or their taxes because of this government. Because of this government, the price of heat, gas and groceries has skyrocketed, and the lives of Canadians are being hurt. Canadian winters are cold and people need to heat their home. The recent 3-year suspension of the carbon tax on home heating oil is an acknowledgement of what we've been saying on this side of the House. The carbon tax is hurting Canadians and making life unaffordable.
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Speaker, something must be done about climate change, and experts agree our system is the right thing to do. Our government is committed to helping Canadians transition from heating oil to heat pumps, which is a much greener option. In fact, the Prime Minister recently announced measures to provide financial support to Canadians who are making this transition. Thank you, Speaker.